Everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric on our long-running series, the Unported Playlist, where I take a look at some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And today we're playing Virtua Striker 2, version 98, on the Super Model emulator for Model 3 boards. And I know what you're thinking, this came out on Dreamcast, and that's actually a later revision. This is a Model 3 exclusive, even if it's 95% the same. Plus, hey, I set the rules on the channel, so we just gotta go with it. Before we get too far involved, though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. People were asking when I was going to cover this game, and funny enough, they were almost all European subscribers. And the reason I haven't covered this game that much is because I didn't grow up enjoying soccer, or honestly what most people would call football. But that doesn't matter so much because the game is still a ton of arcade fun. Sega was no slouch when it came to making arcade games, even if I'm not the best at playing this particular one. But it's so much fun to see Model 3 in action. It's my favorite Sega arcade board of all time, more so than Naomi or Naomi 2 or even Model 2. I love Model 3, the look, the stylings of it, and what can be done in the Super Model emulator. Ignore those black bars on the top of the screen. You can do widescreen hacks for all the Model 3 games, but some of these skyboxes are only drawn in 4x3, so you do have that little bit of black up there. But when Model 3 came out into the arcades, it looked amazing, and I will still say this game looks and plays incredibly. And if you want to play with a second player, it is an incredible game. I have played this with friends, and even though I don't really have any love for the sport of soccer outside of video games, this is an amazing game to play as a multiplayer experience. You're running around, you're yelling, you're screaming, you're trying to beat your friend. It's got everything an arcade game needs. It's got that same intensity as playing a fighting game, but it's much more pick up and play versus a fighting game where you actually need to learn. If you're looking for a good multiplayer arcade game to play and you're not great at something like a fighting game, Virtua Striker 2 version 98 is definitely something that I highly recommend you check out. I did just foul that person there, and I lost the first point to Saudi Arabia. Of course, I'm playing as the US, why not? That's where I am. But I love the replays, I love the graphics, I love everything about this game. It is just so dynamic, running at 60 frames a second, and all of those models for their time and place looked absolutely incredible, and I still think they look so good. Model 3 hardware has held up the best of the 90s 3D hardware, in my opinion, as far as arcade is concerned. Sega was doing things with 3D that absolutely nobody else could touch in the arcades at that point in time. But if you disagree with me, tell me what your favorite 3D arcade board from the 90s is, because I would be curious to hear. But just from that gameplay perspective, just moving it around, passing the ball, having those long and short passes, and charging up your shot on goal, it takes like 90 seconds to figure out what you're supposed to do, but it takes hours to learn the intricacies of how to play the game, because your AI is quite intelligent. You need to understand where they are, because I get a chance to kick here, and I miffed it. I hit the wrong button, and that's what happens. You get so excited for that breakaway, all of a sudden if you don't think just right what you need to be doing next, you lose the ball. And you have slide tackles and other things like that. Sometimes you get called for a penalty, but this definitely isn't a simulation. It's a full-on arcade game, and not knowing all the rules of soccer, I would say that the AI lets you get away with enough stuff. And again, don't know who I was passing to there. Sometimes the AI is just not where you think they're gonna be. Or hey, maybe I made a mistake and I'm trying to blame the game for my shortcomings. That happens sometimes when you're playing this stuff. But honestly, it's just a ton of fun. Sega was the king of this type of arcade game. Their sports games were incredible. This, Virtua Tennis, they have so many good titles. You'll find something that you enjoy. Granted, you know, it's not NBA Jam or NFL Blitz. It's not that over the top. It is just an arcade version of soccer. And it's kind of funny they never made like a soccer version of NFL Blitz. I'm surprised that wouldn't play in Europe. I would see that selling a ton of cabinets. But again, I just love what Sega does with Model 3, with the gameplay, with the graphical stylings. This is the type of game that when you sit down and learn it and play it, ooh, that shot was just high, you have so much fun with it. And again, if you have a game night, people are coming over and you want to emulate some arcade games and do something multiplayer, you could do a lot worse than Virtua Striker 2. But the soundtrack, for what it is awesome, so are the crowd noises. So go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds or so, and I will be right back. But enjoy.
Today's best goals. Rainbow. Fantastic, wonderful goal. kick. Lost time.
Just an awesome save there, and when you do something good in this game, you know it's because you made that decision. It has the same sense of satisfaction as a fighting game or a shmup when you're doing really well. If you do something like stop that goal right there, it just feels so good, and you'll see that you get a little replay before we go on to Croatia here. And these matches are definitely quick. This is not a regulation soccer match. I don't even think you can increase the time anywhere near it. This is total arcade action from start to finish, and that's why I love it so much, even if I don't really care too much for the sport of soccer. I don't dislike it, it's just not anything I grew up with. I know there's huge fans of it out there, and I'm happy for you. It's just not the type of thing that I'm really gravitating towards, and honestly, sports in general on television, not really my thing so much. But I know when the video game is good, and I know that Virtua Striker 298 is awesome, even if I do lose the point there and I am down by 1. I love the replays, everything like that. It's slightly a bummer that the skybox won't draw 16 by 9, but that's not a limitation of the emulator. It's a limitation of the art assets of this game. But it still looks incredible. All of the banners on the side, like Fujifilm there, obviously this is being upscaled with the emulator, but even when this was in arcades back in the day, it was just mind-blowingly good. I love the Model 3 hardware, I love owning it, I love playing with it, I love Super Model Emulator. And if you haven't checked it out yet, if I remember, I'll leave a link to the forums below. Go ahead and sign up, just remember be nice because I sent you. But again, this is just a party game. It's so much better with 2 players than versus the computer. Learn against the computer, play around with it, but invite your friends over, crack open a 6-pack or a 12-packer, hell, get a whole keg. I mean, let's not go light on this stuff, right? And just play this game. You will find that it is so much fun to be had. And I love just the camera angles as well. It keeps everything dynamic. Everything's moving around. Nothing's too stationary. It zooms in and out to kind of show you what's going on. And you will see sometimes that shot meter comes up and you have the long and short pass here. There are enough different mechanics to maintain while you're playing that it does become a fine balancing act, from the long pass to the short pass to trying to get the arc on your shot as well as the power just right to try to hit that goal. Because you'll see here, I let the power go a little bit too much and I overshot the goal. Well, learning that mechanic is going to be the key to winning or losing a match. It doesn't matter what sort of breakaway you get. If your shot isn't good, then you're not going to have anything to do. Or if you pass into nowhere like I just did, also isn't really going to work out as well for you as you would expect. But that's the great thing about a game like this. You learn it as you go. You'll learn how the AI works. You understand all of the different mechanics so that you can get better at the game. It's no different than a fighting game or a shmup where practice makes perfect. The more you play, the more the game opens up, the more you enjoy it. And that's why I love this even if I don't really care for soccer, because it gives me the same feeling of learning and enjoyment that something like a fighting game would, and that is nothing to complain about. Now, if you do want to play this on Dreamcast, you absolutely can, even though that is slightly a different version. The thing is, it's just going to be, in my opinion, a graphical downgrade from Model 3. I don't think the Dreamcast looks bad at all. It's one of my favorite consoles of all time, but if you want to play the best version of Virtua Striker 2, you want to play it on Model 3, although I get setting up an emulator for 2 players can be a little bit confusing, so by all means, if you got a Dreamcast with a couple controllers, then you should play this game. No matter how you play it, unless you absolutely hate soccer, don't like multiplayer sports games, play it. But leave me that comment down below and tell me, did you play this when it was in arcades back in the day? Because I would be curious. I'm guessing, and I probably will be right, that a lot more European subscribers will comment saying they remember this, because I do not remember it in arcades back in the day. I have seen it in arcades since, maybe about 10 years ago, but honestly most of my time spent with this game has been spent on the Super Model emulator. But I'm sure in places like Europe, France, United Kingdom, this was probably way more of a game, because I checked the stats on it online, and apparently this was the second most popular arcade game for a bit, only behind one of the versions of Tekken, although those stats are from Japan. So honestly, that's really not Europe whatsoever. But whatever country you're from, or whatever continent you're from, if you like multiplayer sports games, you definitely want to try this. It was just an era where Sega was firing on all cylinders. Every single arcade game they put out was another piece of gold. Just don't run off the course with the ball. It's not even a course. It's what, pitch? Yeah, we'll go with that. Leave me a comment down below and tell me how stupid I am for calling it a course. That's how little I know about the sport. But all in all, it's an awesome game. Definitely play it. Sure, that'll be back next week with another episode of Imported Playlist. I just lost that point again. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.